Well, today's project is to change this bottom hinge pin. As you can see, it's worn. The two ends, like I previously said, are press fit, and the center was rusty, and when you finally got it freed, it realizes that the hole that the pin goes through is bigger than the pin. So in this case, you would have to put an oversized pin, ream it out, and get a pin remover to remove it from the door, which from all the videos I watched appears to be a nightmare. So I think it's easier just to drill out these two rivets, and there's one inside the door, and replace that hinge, and you'll be back to factory. No door troubles. Well, let's give it a shot. I'm going to remove the door panel and everything, but I'll do that off camera just to save a little time. There is the original door pin. As you can see, the top and the bottom have lines on them. They're knurling lines, which makes the pins a little bigger where the high point of them knurls are. But the center is made to fit in there, slip. And that's where the water gets in and rusts. You can see the rust on this pin. And the rust and the hardened steel from opening and closing the doors over the years makes the center part of the hinge, the widest part in the center, it grinds that down like a file and makes that hole too big. So if you just change the pin, you're still going to have slop, and it's still going to be sloppy left to right. But if you change the whole hinge, you can't go wrong. The hinge should work freely, but stiff. No side-to-side action. That is the new hinge. They approximately cost 35 bucks. Much cheaper in the long run than going through the process of getting a hinge pin remover, trying to remove the hinge pin. Then you put a new hinge pin in, and it's still loose because the center section was rusty and worn to a bigger size. So then your next step is an oversized pin, but then you have to buy a reamer, and it's all a tough job. Just easier to pop the 3 rivets and put a new hinge in, and you'll be in much better shape. Okay, clearly you can see rivet 1, rivet 2, and rivet 3. They have to be drilled out. That's my next step. I get my tools ready. A lot of people have trouble punching the center hole in the center of the rivet. So to make it a little easier, I have this cheap transfer punch set that I bought at Harbor Freight years ago. And I just picked the one that's the size of the rivet, cover the rivet with it, and give it a smack, and we're directly dead center. Hope that might help you with a little trick. Okay, here we go. What I did was, here's my punch. I got the one that's the size of the rivet, and it has a point on the front. So I will turn it around, center this pin on the rivet, and give it a couple taps. Now, hopefully you can see the hole is directly in the center. Now I'll do it to the 2 on the sides. Okay, now clearly I'll be able to drill out the centers of them. That's my next step. I'm going to hit it with a little WD-40 for lubricant, and then I'll commence my drilling. Lube always makes it easier. You don't have to go right through. You just have to go in past the hinge a little bit where the head is. You'll see what I mean as we continue. Now a bigger hole. Well, we send it through on that one. Hang on, I want to get a little brush and a rag. Okay, let's see where we're at here. Well, as you can see, I'm a little off center, but that's not going to hurt nothing. I got to go with the next size drill bit, and then the head of the rivet should pop off. A little more lube, we'll get back at it. Let's give this a try. Okay, I think a screwdriver, all right, a little thin screwdriver, see if we can pop that. Well, let's try needle nose pliers. What the problem is, the rivet on the bottom is still connected to the top by a little piece. And let's see if we can get it out of here. Could be a little bit of a problem, but it's a lot easier than changing a pin. Okay, he fell through. Well, I'll show you what that looks like after I'm done drilling the other two. Well, the other two actually weren't held in at all. I don't know if you can see that. Let me show you. The other two actually broke through the sheet metal, but we'll repair that with regular door screws. They're bigger than this opening, and they'll dimple into the new hinge perfectly. You'll see what I mean. We still have to drill these rivet heads out a little bit in order for the door hinge to come through the slot in the front of the door panel. So that's our next move. It's gonna be a little bit of a hassle, but I'm just gonna keep at it till I get it, and then we'll go from there. This hole does not want to cooperate. I have to re-punch the center. This time I'll use a regular punch. That's much better. We're getting there. Think that's good. We'll go to the next size up. Beautiful. It appears to me to be easier not to go all the way through the rivet, because once you get the head off, on this beveled area inside there, you could put your punch on and punch the rivet right out. Okay, we'll go to the last size drill bit. Okay, let's see if we can do it. Oh, it's definitely moving. We got it. There's the head of the rivet. Now it's just a hinge. You'll see as I pull it apart. Work on this one now. Well, that one came out a lot easier. Well, we're going to have to punch it out. You can see the head of the rivet right there. That's going to be a little tricky getting that out of there because now it's so movable. But we'll work on it. We'll figure it out. When you have these projects, you have to practice a lot of patience. Maybe, there. I don't know if you could see that, but there it is there sticking through the top. What I'm going to try to do is put a vice grip here where my thumb is and finger, and then work on getting that rivet out of there. This is actually the first time I ever changed a VW hinge, but I believe this is still the easiest way to go. Why not try to drill again? Try whatever works. That's doing it. Back to the screwdriver punch. I know everybody has a screwdriver punch. Okay, now she'll come right out. See these 3 holes here? They're beveled. They're tinier than these holes. So what I plan on doing with the new hinge is tapping these holes to the next size that will fit them. Then I'm going to get 3 bolts that'll fit that tap. And instead of riveting this back in, I'll bolt it through like they do on the door. And there's enough room there between to get enough meat for a few threads that'll really hold that tight. So that's what we plan on doing, and I know that should work. But see how loose that is? That'll always stay that way. I mean, unless you ream that out, ream these out and put a bigger pin in. And like I said, you have to buy a reamer, you have to buy a pin remover, then you take the chance of maybe damaging your door, you know. So I believe for 35 bucks and a little bit of drilling and punching, take the hinge out, put a new hinge in, your factory after that. Well, let me get back to it. I decided to drill and tap the hinge for the size of the bigger door bolts that hold the door hinge into the A-pillar. And the reason is they'll fit better in here, and they'll give me more threads on the inside of the next part. And here's an example up here. These will work, I believe, better than anything. If you could see what I mean there. All right, let me find my taps and everything, and I'll show you the next step in the process. Hinges. The tap size is the same as the A-pillar's threaded holes for the hinge bolts. Got to do it gentle. You don't want to break the tap off in there. The hole was similar, that I didn't have to re-drill it to a bigger size to run the tap through. Just take it very easy and run that tap in there. I got to do this to all 3 holes. I hope you could see in this lighting, and I'm not. Yeah, maybe I'm better if I move over here. It's going very well. Patience. Like I said, this is the first time I ever did this, but I pick up hints from wherever I can. And if there's something good I like, I use it. There's a lot of people put out videos that think their way is the only way, but I know my way ain't the only way, but it works for me, and hopefully some of it will work for a couple of you guys. That hole is done. Now I will try the next one. Starting is slow. You want to keep as straight as you can with the hole. And take your time getting the bit in there. You don't want to snap the bit off. But it's caught and it's working, so we'll go slow. I'm sure a lot of you guys in the past that work with taps broke taps off in different holes when you were trying to tap them. And it could be a nightmare to get them back out of there. But I've been a mechanic my whole life, and I've seen them taken out many ways. So I don't really sweat it, but you really don't want to break it if you can help it. And you want to assist the tap on the way out. You don't want to goof up your threads. Okay, we got one more hole to do. I'll tighten my tap, and we'll do it. And I'm going to shoot a little more lube on that one. And as you can see, we're going right in there. It's a little tight. That's where you want to slow down, maybe back off the tap a little bit. Try again. Sometimes when you back the tap off, you should make a couple turns and then back the tap off. That breaks the pieces off inside that are cutting the threads, and it makes it a little easier for the tap to continue in the right direction. We're doing pretty good. This is going right in. Okay, let's wipe off some of this oil. Now we'll file these down so there's no sharp little burrs sticking out. Now let's see if our bolts fit. Perfect. And now see, when you put that in the door, that'll hold it in place. You do that to the tree, and you eliminate them. I don't know if you could see here. I'm going to try to show you the depth of the treads. This is steel, so well, I don't know if you can make it out. But the depth of the treads, I would say, is approximately 2 or 3 threads, like about 1/8 of an inch deep. That's plenty. Okay, let's see how this fits. We got to sneak this up through the slot in the front of the door. A little twist. There's the hole, lines up right here. We're going to put our bolt in from the original hinge onto the 8-pillar bolt, which we'll have to buy a few extra ones now because we're using them for this. I want to leave it a little bit loose till I line up the other 2 on the outside. And then I'll tighten them all 3 down and see how it works. Okay, here we go. Maybe I need to loosen this top one up a little bit. There you go. There we go. You just got to be patient. You don't want to screw up your treads. Let's start the other one. Okay, let's tighten them down. It could be a little tighter, but for this video, I'm just going to tighten this much to show you how it works. Now see this hinge? There's no side to side. It's tight. You could hear it. That is going to make the door fit perfect. And if your door doesn't fit perfect, that's why it's awful hard when you're pulling the door trigger to open the door. It seems like you got to really pull on it and move the door around. Well, if it's a little bit off, that's going to be your problem. You'll have a very hard time adjusting it because you have looseness. And looseness, I've learned in the mechanical world, means failure. So eventually things will get loose enough that they're going to fail. So for 35 bucks, get yourself a new hinge and a tap. I'll put the tap size on the film because I don't remember exactly where it was. I think it's 10 millimeter 1.5, but I'm not sure. I will put it on there. But that's the way to go. You don't knock the crap out of yourself trying to get that hinge pin out. And then that's usually not the fix anyway. You kill yourself for a couple days on it, and you're still not happy with the end results. This is the way to go. All right. If I have enough time in this video, well, I probably won't because this is running a little bit long. So my next video is going to be, I'm going to cut this door off about here. And reason being, it's rusted on the bottom. Wait 1 minute, I'll show you. The bottom is rusted pretty bad. But the door itself at the front is in pretty good shape. So I thought about just changing the very bottom, which I still may do. Or change the bottom 5 or 6 inches. But it is perfect. And the reason why I'm debating what to do is, if I cut this off at the 90-degree bend on the bottom of the door, it'll be more strength. The front, like I said, there's no problem with the very edge of it. And this way, when I'm welding it, it would be a lot easier to weld without causing any warpage. And to also grind it down clean. And then eventually finish it off. So I have to think about it. but that's probably going to be my next video. There's one more thing I want to show you in this video about door hinges. Give me a minute, I got to find a tool. Okay, here's what we need. When you're taking these door hinges off, a lot of people struggle and end up drilling these bolts out because they're so tight and rusted in place. Well, you really don't need to do all that. What you need to pick up, this is an old Snap-on, but Harbor Freight sells them very cheap. A lot of you guys, I'm sure, know what this tool is, but for the few that don't, this is called like an impact driver. And it turns. You could turn it to the right or to the left, to loosen or to tighten. And what this does is, if you want to loosen it, you turn it to the loosen position. You set the Phillips head in your door bolt, and you get a small hammer. Well, not necessarily a small hammer. Well, this is a joke. This one's too big. Hang on, I'll get the right one. And you wrap your hand around it like that. And you get your ball peen hammer or any other suitable hammer. You give it a good whack, and whack, and whack, and whack, and it'll break free. It'll save you the drilling, having to get new bolts. Just whack it with that impact driver. And if you want it that tight, when you're tightening it back up, turn it the opposite way and whack it again. It'll not loosen it, but it will tighten it. So I hope this little tip helps people, because door hinge bolts are a very big problem. All right, you guys. Thanks for watching the video. Please stay tuned. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. If you like what I'm doing. If not, I understand too. That's cool. But I would appreciate the help. Thank you. You guys have a good day.